motion to return to open session by Mr. Stockley, second by Mr. Walter. Roll call vote. Aye.
Okay. Traeger?
Aye.
Okay. Owen, Pottinger? Aye. Hassett?
Aye.
Stockley?
Aye.
Walter?
Aye.
Okay.
We are back in open session at 10:18. Okay, Brian, you want to do your report?
I have enough today. That's sure folks.
That's good.
What's it? No, you want it?
If you've got extra, you don't. It's not what you
You want one? Sure.
Good enough, Brian?
I think so. Did you get one?
Yeah.
All right. You want one? I think I should.
You have enough?
I should. Yep. Just enough here. So just a quick overview of the building zoning report. The year end, we ended up having 42 single family homes, which compared to last year, I think we only had 17. So it's been a kind of a building boom for unincorporated LaSalle County. Other projects of note, we approved the Springer Solar Farm to start construction that's located at North 13th Road in Springer, and the MKM oil property. So they presented their decommissioning bond and plan and project plans, so they were approved this month to move forward. Another commercial project is there was a large hoop building at the Ottawa barge terminal that was damaged during the derecho that was replaced. In Serena, Rainco is doing a new shop out there. And NICOR is doing a saline pumping station enclosure on their natural gas field there. Any questions on the building?
What's Rainco doing?
It's like a, basically just an equipment building in their shop, in their property in Serena.
Do any of these require zoning, meeting with the zoning board?
None of these, yeah.
Okay.
So, or except for the solar one that I went through the zoning board. The Grainco, apparently they were, we limited the use of the structure to, basically they do seed sales and things like that, so they should be doing some seed sales and whatnot on that building, so they made the case that, they were exempt for that particular building. So that's why we move forward with that. Any other questions of the permits?
I guess I'm a newbie. So SFH, single family home, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then AG, SFH, single family home in A1.
So, the first portion, all the ag, where it says, are you looking at the
Yeah.
front page report?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first portion are all the projects that are permitted under our safe built contractor. And the ones that say ag, those are all ag exempt permits.
Okay.
And then commercial goes through our safe built contractor too. So on the second column, you'll have the zoning miscellaneous permits. Those we all do, or those don't go through safe built or building contractor. Those are all done just, basically they're zoning permits. We don't do building inspections on the sites that, get those permits.
Okay.
We end up doing we do a setback and then a final inspection. No other questions on the permits, I'll move on to the, general inspection report. Just a total of 8 on the miscellaneous inspections. Close multiple, open cases, violation cases, this month. Any questions on that?
What page are you on?
It'd be the 2020 inspection violation report. So this just outlines all inspections that are outside of the EPA program, so it's floodplain setback, zoning complaint, abandoned property, ag final verification. So we do a final, just the final closeout to see when it, what's completed. Setbacks aren't done on every permit, just the ones that are their site plan has it close to the right of way or property line. If it's shown close on the site plan, then we'll go out and inspect the setbacks. Any questions on those? Moving on,
Mr. Cassidy,
You have a administrative warning notice. How serious, you don't have to, it's just a general question. How serious are these administrative warnings? Are they more or less environmental?
which
Or
one
do
do we
they
have?
concern themselves with our zoning requirements?
Are you on the, which sheet are we on? That one, so, yeah, that would be the, IEPA inspection. So the administrative citation warning notice is a pretty extensive notice that warns them of the EPA, violations and fines. It's accompanied by, a full narrative and pictures that we send to them of basically a full report gets sent to them along with the administrative citation warning notice. And that is given before, if they don't comply with that, then we apply for fines through the Pollution Control Board. So we had a total of, in December, 40 solid waste inspections with 3 at permitted sites, 29 re-inspections, and 8 complaint inspections. And then the list of those inspections are on the next sheet.
Is in order a motion to approve Mr. Gibbs' report of December of 2020 on zoning requirements and also inspection services.
Does anyone, before we approve, does any, have questions on the report? Okay, we have a motion to accept and place on file by Mr. Casa, and a second by Mr. Stockley. No further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Report is on file. Brian, can we jump around a little bit and do the Knox's meeting portion? In case Chris has to get back.
Sounds good, I think she's been waiting for a while, so. Computer, the way here.
That's it. Okay, for the new members, for the past couple of years, in January, board office receives a notification from the state of Illinois, as more or less a reminder that they have a state noxious weed ordinance, primarily ragweed, and if you look at the ordinance, they have a list of other weeds that they consider to be noxious. And in years past, we have just more or less said, thank you, we're aware of it, and push it down the road. We received another one. Brian and I had some discussion with some clarifications we'd like to get, so Brian's going to present that to you for your opinions today, and how we want to move forward.
So, per state statute, we're supposed to have a noxious weed commissioner, and then actually have the authority to send notices, and then if property owners don't eradicate noxious weeds on their property, they're, we as a county, or we hire somebody to go eradicate those weeds. As part of that, there's a plan that's required to be submitted to the Department of Agriculture. Some other counties, I've only seen through my research, not every county has adopted one of these. I know this is an ongoing notice that we get from the Department of Agriculture that the county's in violation for not having a noxious weed commissioner, so this has been going on for some time. I don't know how long, maybe Chris knows how long we've.
Seems like it's been a long time since we had anything.
So it's been probably two years since we've discussed it here, I think. And that was the last notice we got. And then we just got, the board office, I believe, got a notice a few months ago that we were in violation for not having one. So I guess, as a committee, probably, we should probably decide which committee should be discussing this. And if the county is going to move forward with having a noxious weed commissioner, and then if so, which department should be responsible for that? So. And or you actually can have a commissioner that does multiple counties. So there is the possibility that you can work with other counties to be able to have a noxious weed commissioner that covers multiple counties. Dave has a question.
This is a volunteer position?
Mr. Torres.
Our highway department has the equipment, certified applicators. I'm not on your committee, but my recommendation would be to go to the highway department.
Your question, Mr. Casson?
The question that I had was, this would be a paid position through Land Services?
Well, I think we're at the point where the county has to decide whether they're going to appoint a noxious weed commissioner or, what department they're gonna have do it. And then I guess it's up to, the negotiations with that department to decide if there's gonna be additional, compensation involved, but, I'm not gonna say that the highway is more, set up than our department. I don't know that any department particularly wants to take on this task, but I don't wanna speak for all the departments, but I think, I don't think it's a good fit for my department, I know that, so.
Take care of the roads.
I recall reading at one time under the township code that there's a township fiscal commissioner.
Yeah.
And I would think that, this would be more practically, enforced by the township level. I don't know why they would, send it to the county, but then, of course, that's another story. Maybe, contact the township.
Maybe it needs to be set to like Leggett rules to decide if we're gonna, move forward and actually initiating and following the statute, and then get some input from the state's attorney's office on that. And then Leggett rules could pass it on to the appropriate committee for, if they decide to have a department take on that task, then it can go to that committee.
I think we need to take a look at the economic impact to the county in that regard. What Mr. Wall said as far as townships, that might be an avenue of, as far as I'm concerned, first approach that be done from the townships at first. And it could be done in correlation with perhaps the county commissioner, if that be the case.
So like delegating it to the townships?
Well, they're closest to the property as regard, basically, if you're looking at what Mr. Cassett asked before, if this is a voluntary position or in second approach, a paid position, what's the economic impact to the county? And are there other avenues that can be approached that might be more appropriate?
Yeah, along those lines, I think we, look at it from the standpoint of the highway department with the county highways and the townships with the township roads. I think that's how we're getting roped into it to some degree. But, to me, it would tie together that way, possibly between those two.
Well, I think the highway has every property owner within the state has a duty to eradicate their own noxious weeds.
Yeah.
So that's why the highway department is trained to spray for noxious weeds along the highways. But this goes above and beyond where there's somebody tasked with sending notices to property owners in violation, and then the county having to pay to have those eradicated, or having staff do that too on private property. So that is, I guess, where we're in violation of not having a commissioner and not having a plan in place on how we're going to do that. So, but I guess, by just putting it in this committee, I think you're narrowing it to like, the departments covered in this committee. I think maybe it should have to be, start at the top to be.
guarantee what he's trying to do. Ryan, do you have to have?
Well, we have the environmental director here.
Well,
Chris, want to give your?
yeah, I think, you know, the question is you have to become a licensed pest control operator if you're going to eradicate the weeds, or you're gonna have to hire somebody. And when, from reading, my notes from 2 years ago when we went through this, you have the ability, if you eradicate it on someone's property, to then turn around and bill them. But it's that whole cycle of someone's gotta pay for it up front and then turn around and recoup the money, and I don't know how that works with the state's attorney if they don't pay.
It's just a municipal lien, but, you know, once
Yeah.
again, you could always sue to foreclose on the lien, but.
Yeah, so I mean, it
Cost
just
benefit.
really depends. I know in the past, it seems like I've been here forever, and it was the township people that basically sprayed along the roads, but it's all these private properties that, you know, have issues.
And truthfully, we've only had, I think, 1 or 2 calls about it to our department, about like a complaint that there's noxious weeds on a
Yeah, I
field,
don't
and I
think
said,
we maybe get 6 to 10 a year. I mean, it seems like we have gotten more recently, you know, over the last 2 years or something than we had in the past, but.
there was a year, I think, was it last year or the year before, where there was a lot of fields not planted or
Yeah.
planted late,
Right,
so.
right.
We did get a couple of calls that year, I think, about noxious weeds, but I don't think generally it's too big of an issue. And I guess the big thing is, you know, who's tasked at it and whether the county is gonna, you know, put a budget to, you know, budget funds for eradicating noxious weeds on private property. And I mean, we have trouble getting our fines reimbursed and, you know, I mean, trying to, or even sometimes our zoning, you know, cases reimbursed. So, you know, trying to get paid for, you know, eradicating weeds on a property, you know, might
Yeah,
be
and
kind
then
of
do you wanna
difficult.
have, you know, staff doing that, or do you want to hire a contractor to do that? I mean, because the licensure exam is, it's not hard, but it's not fun. It's a 2-part exam. You gotta go through the first day and get a general pest control applicator's license, and then you gotta get, for whatever specific weeds, you know, weed license, and you're out there spraying weeds and everything else.
We have 2 committee members that are part of the ag community. Maybe like to throw your input on about how you feel about it. Because in most residential settings, they're within some kind of community or it's incorporated into a municipality. So I'd say 90% of the complaints come from agricultural land, public land.
Yeah, I mean, the ones in particular I was talking about were fields with thistle or whatnot.
Right.
You know, I don't think, this doesn't address just, you know, people's lawn grass or anything. It's actual agricultural,
Which is a
noxious
whole other
weeds.
issue.
Yeah, I agree, excuse me, I agree with Tom. Local road commissioners traditionally have had, the authority to, control noxious weeds, but not all road commissioners know what a noxious weed is to begin with. There's a specific list that has to be followed. Weeds that are troublesome weeds for farmers aren't necessarily noxious weeds. So, but I agree with Tom. I think local road commissioners should be involved in it, as well as the highway department.
Well, the issue at hand is that every year we get the notification from the state that we don't have a plan in place. Well, the question would be, does the county make the plan and then make the road commissioners responsible, or do we just pass it off to 37 townships and tell them, each of them have to create a plan? But the statute addressed the county having a weed commissioner. Would it be a situation like we have chief of assessment officer with the township assessors that report to them, we need to, first off, we have to decide and maybe send it to the state's attorney, do we have to enforce this? Or is it something we can just keep ignoring? And then if the state's attorney comes back and tells us, yes, you have to get this plan in place, then we address how we're going to move forward with it. Because you get 37 townships, each one will, if they decide they're gonna do it, they have to write their own plan. But from the Department of Agriculture, it's the county's responsibility, the way I read the statute, to have a weed commissioner to be responsible for it. Another situation where we run into that unfunded mandate and how we enforce something that is unenforceable. Don?
My question on this is there a statutory description of that commissioner?
Yes.
And another question in that regard then, is it required of that commissioner to basically inspect all acreage in LaSalle County for that possible infraction? Because basically what you're talking about, Brian, is sending out notices of infraction of this ordinance, state ordinance supposedly.
So you have to be, the commissioner actually goes to the Department of Agriculture to get trained as a commissioner to identify weeds. And then, they'll be chosen for the county, and then they're in charge of all property within the county. I'm not sure if it's only unincorporated or whether it's also incorporated property, but it's all the land within.
Yeah, I don't think it differentiates, Brian.
No, so
Because I'm
it
just
must be,
going through my
it
notes
must
on
be
the duties.
countywide.
And it's that, I mean, it's pretty much delineated in the statutes. It says examine all lands, highways, roads, alleys, public grounds, and the territory over which the control authority has jurisdiction, so that might only be the rural, but has become acquainted with all locations of noxious within their area. Have to reach out to people regarding that, cooperate with other control authorities and University of Illinois Extension representatives with the landowners, investigate complaints, take samples, pictures, or press specimens of the noxious weeds, give individual notices, submit reports to the director, and submit an annual plan or an annual work plan by December 31st. So I mean, that's just their individual duties. So.
George, and
Help me out here, Doug. The LaSalle County Soil and Water Conservation Program, would they be able to help us with this?
They might, but it'd be, I don't think it's run through the districts, and I don't think any of the districts have been tasked with going ahead and doing anything with noxious weeds. I think it's always been traditionally the local road commissioners. It all comes, it started back in the 40s and the 50s when individual farmers were raising their own seed. And they were trying to keep noxious weeds from spreading and getting into the seed. Well, we don't produce our own seed anymore. It's produced commercially, and now, but the law still is in effect. So I don't have a real good answer on who's gonna have to be involved. If I might, who did you talk with at the Department of Agriculture?
I didn't talk with anybody, I just read the notice as well as the statute. I didn't contact.
No contact or no office at the
No,
Department?
I didn't wanna, since we got a violation notice, I didn't want to really discuss it with them. No, I mean, it's pretty much, it's also an unfunded mandate, because it's not, I don't think there's a place where you can find them or anything, so I mean,
There is.
Oh, is there?
Where you
Okay.
can find it, and it's like, you can set up a special fund,
Oh, okay.
you can create a noxious weed fund that you can then use to pay for eradication superintendents, because that whole thing, that start off is always what kills you with any program, but really.
So I mean, could it be a separate tax?
Yeah.
Or,
Well, no, I think it's basically when you charge people, you put the money back in that fund.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
like, and of course, it is paid from the general fund until a noxious weed control fund is established, so that's always a fun part too, so.
I have a question in regard to your notices that you have now from the public about complaints. How do you handle those now? I mean, what happens, or is there?
We
Somebody
really just tell them that there is no noxious weed control, at this point in the county. And, and some people are smart, they know that we're supposed to have something, and so usually they bounce back and forth, just like the high grass and the high general weeds, bounce back and forth between Brian and my office. And
So they're complaining about their neighbors then or something, it's not.
the noxious weeds are usually, hey, there's thistle or something growing here, someone needs to take a look at this, we know there's a noxious weed ordinance, but, yeah, the high grass ones are my neighbors not cutting the grass for food,
How do you respond to that now?
The high grass or the noxious weeds?
Well, the whole, yeah.
Yeah, the noxious weeds, we just kind of educate them and just say there isn't anything with the county. The high grass, sometimes we'll take a look at it, just see if there's something else we can do and talk to them and just, send a nice advisory letter, please cut the grass. But, or, do the high weeds or snakes and, we'll look for some other stuff.
So you're not involved in the eradication or anything, but.
No, not at this point. I no longer have my pest control applicator's license, so but, it's just basically you got to go through that. We used to have a mosquito control, we don't have that now. But I will say that most of your township road commissioners, we deal with them with larvicide for mosquitoes. They are not licensed applicators, so they would not be able to spray anything.
But the county has something, the highway department.
I'm assuming the highway does for public grounds, because it does say that, the county's responsible for their property, so I would think that they would have somebody for along their highways, but. Yeah, this involves going on the private property, including property that's posted no trespassing and stuff, so.
But the issue at hand is not who's going to do it at this point, is do we create a noxious weed section to some department and create a position of administrator, supervisor, superintendent, and writing the ordinance. I'm sure Mark can find one of the counties that does have an ordinance in place and do a cut and paste. But first do we want to take that route? And I'd like to see an opinion from the state's attorney. Is this something that we really need to follow? It's an ordinance, but there's so many ordinances that aren't followed by the state. They can pass a law and say, okay, well, you figure out how you're going to do it. And this seems to be one of them. Jason?
I was curious, how many counties in the state have these commissioners?
I didn't get a count, but definitely not all of them. So, I know locally, I think only like Marshall County has one, maybe DeKalb County. I did see some other, discussion on the web from some counties' meetings, getting the same notices we got, so I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot of counties that haven't implemented, programs yet. I don't have the number,
Okay.
haven't.
Well, it'd be a good idea to get that number, see how many throughout the state that has these commissioners.
So to be clear, we did receive a notice.
It goes to the board office, I think, and yeah, they just referred to the,
So you came into your box in the board office.
We received that notice.
Okay.
it was a few months ago,
And it was from the Illinois Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, it's a violation notice.
And any department listed?
No specific department, it's to the board chairman.
Okay.
Could you send that to me, please, Brian?
Yep. And I think this is like the third, I mean,
Oh,
it's-
we've gotten notices back from when Mr. Harstead was here, I mean, I know,
yeah, so it comes up every time we get a
so it's
notice.
like every year or every 2 years. So
Yeah.
the last copy I have is from 2018, but.
And those
I'll
are the
send you a
kind of
copy and
like
scan
that.
back at that.
And what was determined last time, that it appeared to be a form letter, it wasn't specific to an individual. So the committee had directed Brian to just ignore it, don't bring it to their attention that, oh, we don't have what do we have to do.
I'll investigate it on my own without involving LaSalle County in it. That's all.
I was gonna say for the new committee members that wasn't here, because I think I gave a presentation about 2 years ago on this. I have my notes.
I was looking for the report that you gave.
Yeah, I have my notes, I mean, I can see if I'm interested, I can make copies and forward it on and just kind of delineate what it was and stuff. And a copy of the old numbers that don't have the new numbers, but.
I don't know if I sent the old, I think I sent the old members a copy of Marshall County's plan from their highway department. I can resend that out to the new committee here. You don't have a copy of you, Chris. So I think that's a, they just implemented their highway department, so.
So what we really need to make a decision this morning is how do we want to proceed, as Brian said, do we forward that letter on to the state's attorney, do we send it to the board chairman and discuss that rule for determination on what area would be responsible? Right now, it's just so much thought. It's always been directed to the environmental services office. But it's nowhere in Brian's description or in the department description for handling weeds on private property. So first we have to determine who or what, or is it gonna be a combination of Brian, the health department, and the highway department in conjunction, a subcommittee, if you want to say, just to handle the weed, but then you're still going to be tasked with the creating a weed superintendent position, as Chris read the duties, to go out and investigate, send out the notices. And it's something that, even though it's not a lot, once it becomes known to the public that it's created, you're going to be getting a lot of them. When you drive down the road, see weeds growing between the soybeans, and they're going to say,
No more butterflies.
Going to settings.
Oh, and once you send out one notice, then the person that got the notice to eradicate the weeds probably turn in 10 others. So, I mean, that's what we get all the time, and like, you get one call for one complaint, and it opens a can of worms of 10 additional. So, it's,
Well, I have to do my, I want him to go, he is.
And I think we need to be very clear, I don't like to, I guess, get in my soapbox, but we do get a lot of tall grass and just neighborhood type things, so it needs to be very clear what this does and does not cover, just so the public is clear.
The statute is very specific on what they address. They do.
Can this get worked on until the new budget year, so we can plan for it?
Well, we'll probably be working on it most of the year, and it'll probably be the new budget season when we actually get to the point that we're gonna be looking to create a position. It's gonna take a while just to get a ordinance approved and reviewed.
We're covered by working on it.
Same like in property where we address the ADA on a continuing basis. You really can't be faulted for not having it in place as long as you've got a plan to look at putting something in place. Which is kind of what we've done in the past, but every time we get the notice of violation, we have this same discussion.
I was going to suggest that, we'll take a look at it in my office and the state's attorney's office, and then we'll figure out where to go from there.
That the satisfaction of the committee to have a board chairman with the state's attorney to see what we should move forward. And then Mr. Stockley had offered to investigate on his own.
I just have one other question on this. I mean to continue, but my point was that the complaints come in, but then who is really in charge of the eradication? Is it supposed to be the county that does the eradication, or is it the property owner that's responsible to do it?
It's the property owner supposed to do it, but when they don't do it, you have to issue a notice that they're not complying. And eventually, according to the statute, then the county is supposed to do it and then bill the property owner.
So initially, it's just a notice type.
Right, notice for the property owner to eradicate it.
And we're already doing that? Or-
No, because we
We
don't
don't.
have anything. There is no ordinance countywide that says that you can't have this, and nobody, I guess, has been told that we have to enforce this, so.
Okay, thank you.
It's Walter.
Yeah, if we appoint a noxious weed commissioner, they're gonna want a vehicle too,
Of course.
No.
And
I want a helicopter.
See, my staff doesn't have a vehicle, they just
as
get
the
my
applicant, you
so.
can't expect the commissioner to type up his own notices.
No. In a phone.
How good is it? Satellite.
It's a form letter, it's not a.
yeah, I mean, it could probably be added to somebody's duties, I would think,
Per fee.
I mean, it's gonna probably, it'll cost, additional, salary, I would think. But, anyway.
Yeah, it would be taking staff coverage, people off in different areas and, that type of thing, so.
It's coming.
I'll tell you, I don't think there's anybody here in the room that remembers, Matt Stafford that worked for, Mike as his legal supervisor. Mike just handed it to him and said, you take care of it.
And then total 9 noxious weeds in Illinois right now, so.
Most of them are.
Yeah, ragweed, and then that's the most problem, one of the most problems for people with allergies, so.
Yeah, and I think most of the complaints we get are about thistle. Just when we've gotten in the past, it seems like it's about thistle.
That's what came into ours too, was the thistle. And I got one on ragweed too, I think.
But, marijuana is on the list.
Very specific.
That didn't tell how big the industrial, was that industrial hemp?
Yeah.
The other is medicinal.
Cannabis sativa.
I know the dog is a good, thistle, any other discussion on this before we move on? Don, if you could investigate that and then work with Brian, and we can keep that on the agenda for next month.
Yes.
Okay, anything else that you want to talk about, Brian, before we go into the text?
I don't think so. We'll pretty much just go into the text amendment.
There's been no issues with, Rick so far with the inspections. Yep. As far as the workload and compensation for what they're having, for safe build.
No complaints, it's been going well.
As we indicated when we approved that we were going to address in the new year, possible alternatives, as something that you want to continue to move forward with, or keep it at what we're doing right now.
I'd like to keep it as is for now, but I think, you know, until, I mean, the only other option at this point, I did look at other options, you know, when we had the contract end, or ending, you know, with, independent, like some local engineering companies that might be able to help, you know, on an hourly basis or a contracted basis, but, you know, I don't think that would work unless it was a company similar to Safeville, where they had actual staff that were specific to inspecting, so. I mean, they could do our plan review, our commercial plan review, I don't see an issue with that, but having somebody actually, you know, inspecting, I think that would be an issue. Or possibly doing that, so. I guess as long as our contract's still, good, you know, I'd like to keep with, Safeville, until, you know, unless any issues arise, so.
And there hasn't been any public pushback on fee increase.
And nothing on the fees, and, I think in the event, you know, that, you know, that you cancel our contract or something like that, I think pretty much our only backup would be hiring full-time staff for that, you know, position, and it would be probably at least, you know, one full-time person as well as, you know, possibly a part-time one. And then a contract home inspector as well as farming out the,
procedures for the hiring within my budget. I have some concerns.
So the new fees might be enough to cover.
Soon, she's retiring, so.
So I think that would be the backup plan, but it would take a lot of time to be put into place, so. That would be the issue.
And for the benefit of the new committee members, was it $93,000 that we took in as our cutoff of the inspection fees last year?
Cut off. You mean our 10%?
Yeah.
I don't think it's not that much.
Or is that the total charge?
I think that was the total for inspection. So to fill in some of the other committee members that aren't aware, what Alan's talking about is we have a contract building inspector that does all our building inspections that aren't ag exempt. That company has somebody that fills in on when he's on vacation, as well as does, they send away the plans for review. So they pretty much take care of all the inspections and the scheduling of inspections for that part of the building program in our office. So as part of that,
If you look back on the second and third page, it shows the fees that are charged for the inspections that Safeville goes out on.
so they charge their fee plus add 10%, and the county gets 10%. So when they bill us for their fee, and then we retain the 10% in our revenue fund. So, so the county really doesn't make a lot of money off of the program, or actually really makes none, because we also send staff out there to inspect setbacks on the site, and then, copies in the office, as well as calls and processing the zoning side of the permit. So that 10%, probably barely covers that, but, so it's not a real big income generator for the county.
What I was referring to was with the fees that are coming in for the inspections, it would probably pay for the cost of a inspector that with a part-time position was as needed. That we wouldn't have the exorbitant cost of the benefit package as if we hired a full-time building inspector. We had certified people on call. And that was one of the last topics that the committee was looking at in the fall of last year, before it came to the full board to approve the increase in the fees to cover the contract with Safeville. Okay, Mike?
So your suggestion is we look at hire our own individual inspector?
Well, that's what I was asking.
Is that what we're looking at right now?
I was asking Brian if that's something that he'd want to pursue at this time.
I got the contract here, I'll share this with information as to what they're actually charging now. We have to do the math as to the actual expenses along with all benefit package, as to what it would have to require for a building inspector and the degree of education they have to have, the licensing they have to have, and the cost of providing for that service. It's not cheap. I only say that because of my construction background.
I think we could, in a pinch, probably cover that, but is it better to have the contractor right now? I would say it's working well. They have somebody that can sub in when he's on vacation. That's their, that's to uphold their contract, they have to do that. They take care of all the calls and the scheduling coming in, and the inspections, and then, all the commercial plan review is done through Safeville. So, I think it's working fine, and the only reason we looked at other options, I think, were because they were basically canceling our contract previously, so.
For new people's benefit, we had both home inspections they participated in contract with.
Yes.
They were a semi-local, they were McHenry, like this a little bit. And they were bought out 4 or 5 years ago by Safeville. And a lot of the municipalities in LaSalle County all use safety. Since then, almost all of them have terminated their contracts and hired their own building departments to do the inspecting. It was only us and one other municipality.
Well,
Sure, just dropped.
the only thing outside of, the collar counties were Streeter, Sheridan, and us, and
And Sheridan.
Streeter just hired their own person, but they're also gonna do code enforcement and everything else.
So that.
And that's what I would look at, whether there's some synergies there if the contract ends, but.
And that's when they came forward and said, well, it's not worthwhile for us to send someone down there because there's not enough work. And they came back with a fee increase, which was negotiated by Mark Anderson. And they came back and agreed, we got our 90-day notice of termination. And Mark was able to negotiate a contract. So this is something that they may come back to us at any point in the future because there's a 90-day escape clause on either part. So we should have some kind of planning to work that if they come forward, it's not going to be a complete surprise and we have to do inspections.
I mean, I think the only plan would be, we'd look at hiring somebody, because I don't think, there's not another company that does those services. It'd probably be, we sub out the plan review to a local engineering or architect company, and then for commercial plan review, and then we'd probably hire one full-time person, probably hire or at least have a plumbing inspector on contract as an as-needed basis. So I mean, there's a plan in place that if we need to hire people, but I mean that, we'd have to hire people quick, and then we also have the issues with union, non-union in our office. I think there's even a building inspector union position that was never filled that starts at like $11 an hour. So there'd be issues with the union on how that's going to work. So it would not be easy. So it's let's hope the contract stays as is.
The 21 budget shows $112,500 for the building inspectors. So when we get 10% of that back, we get 12,000 back. My suggestion is keep it the way it is, with the understanding, as Mr. Gift mentioned, that we may have to, there's a lot of may have to, we have to always be aware of when we're running a building program and a permit program in our county.
I mean, I guess just to answer your question, and we're good with what is here now. We've investigated other options, investigated possible other contractors, but there's really no comparables out there. So at this time, we hope to keep it as at status quo unless, we have to go to that next step to
I just brought it up for the new members of the committee because this is something that
could come
Casp
up.
and I are, and Mr. Traeger are well aware of. The 4 new people have never heard of this except when it comes to the full board that we're doing the contract. So if there's nothing else on the business portion of the agenda that anyone wants a question on or needs a clarification, Brian had handed out a list of zoning ordinance updates.
So I think I sent this out to some of you beforehand, but I didn't know the new committee members at the time, so you probably did not get those ahead of time. We'll just go page by page here, I guess, through these. So, if you approve of these today, we would recommend that they be, published and paired for the zoning board of appeals. recommendation to the county boards for approval, so. So the first item is, in our current ordinance, it says the county planning and land use committee, it's just, I thought, just change it, all references to the land use committee, because it's the TIF and land use committee, but at least it's getting it closer to our committee name. And then it says the county planning and zoning department, wanted that to change to what our name is, our department name is, to get that reference correct. So all of these proposals, I came through a couple of months ago to the development committee with a list of text amendment ideas, and these are the ones that stuck after that committee meeting, and I ended up initiating the actual language changes in the text here. So section 1 or 3.1 definitions, we've added video gaming cafe, video gaming terminal, video game accessory use to the definitions, because our previous ordinance had nothing in it about the video slots. So it was thought that we should at least address it in the ordinance, and so it could be an accessory use. So this basically allows it to be an accessory use for all those permitted uses in the B2 districts. So if you have a tavern or a restaurant, you can have these, but if you want to have a standalone just slot parlor and your main income is the slots, then that would require a special use permit. So you'll see that later on in the text amendments. These are just it's going in order of the chapters. So these are the definitions. Any questions on that?
I guess I look for the moral majority. The moral majority of having a vice in our county, we have to be very careful of that. Is this something that a standalone facility, or have we gotten to that point in society today that it's an income generator, even though it's gambling, and we're going to approve of this?
Well, I think we're not. So the thing is, we're not, making somebody get a special use if they add these to an already existing business or tavern or whatever, tavern restaurant. But if they are solely a slot parlor, then they would have to come in and get a special use. Because it's not defined anywhere in our ordinance, so technically they shouldn't even be opening one of these in the county without a text amendment anyway, unless it was their secondary use.
And what you have to also keep in mind, that the likelihood that they're gonna open one out in the middle of the country somewhere is pretty remote, when most of them want to be within a municipality.
It's remote, but we did have that appeal just recently. So
I don't assume anything when it comes to moral fiber in the residents of LaSalle County. Because if you can get by with it, they're gonna find a way to get by with it.
But that was an
It's difficult.
existing tavern, bar, restaurant.
yeah, it was.
At the time.
I mean, I just brought that up as an example. I guess we don't need to probably go into much detail on that one,
But it was an existing business that ceased operation that wanted to get permission to come back to it. As the likelihood is going to be, someone's gonna come in and say, oh, I just want to open up a family firewood up in the middle of a farm field. Some of it won't, but it could happen. So that's why in
on that, I'll move on. So, section 4.2-4, so previously in the ordinance, it allowed existing special uses when the ordinance was enacted. They were basically called, so it would call them legal special uses. So anything that was permitted or a special use in that category. Okay, I guess I gotta figure out how to describe this. So say you had just trying to think of what a special use in the, say you had an ag-related business in the A1 district, and you had like a combine, manufacturer or something like that. And you've been operating this business before 2006. But it's now a special use. When the ordinance comes in, it's a special use in the A1 district. Well, since you already had it there previously, they called this a legal special use. This section says that is now a legal special use. But if you had an existing business that ended up being a special use in a different district, but not in the A1 district, then it was a non-conforming use. Then they had to go through a different category. Well, what I'm trying to do is anything that existed previously, if you want to expand that use, all you have to do is come through and get another special use. If it existed before, why give it like 2 or 3 different classifications? That just kind of muddies the water. Let's allow somebody that had an existing business previously, if they want to expand it within the parcel that it's on right now, why not let them, give them a process to come through to be able to continue that use or to expand that use on that existing property, as long as they're not changing the use in any way from what it was. So instead, we got rid of that existing special use definition, because now you will be allowed to have any existing non-conforming use be transferred to a legal special use by going through the special use process. Does that make sense? So any type of non-conforming use, if you want to make it a legal use in order to be able to change it in any way, then you still have to get zoning approval, but at least there's a process for you to do it. So you go through the special use process to do that. So in a way, I think it's giving a little bit more flexibility to the ordinance. And I think we have to be somewhat flexible for this because we have so many non-conforming uses in the county. We didn't get zoning until 2006. So there are, and then the county was blanket zoned A1 at the time, So we have a ton of businesses out in the middle of nowhere. We have restaurants that are zoned A1. We have, ag machine shops that are, we even have ag type uses that are zoned rural residential. So we might have a silo that's, or agribusiness that's zoned rural residential. We have to have some flexibility in the ordinance because we haven't had 50 years of zoning previously where everything kind of is fit in those categories. We have a lot of non-conforming uses that issues come up that we have to find a way for the property owner to at least go through, to be able to get some type of approval, or at least a process for them to do. So that's what it's giving a little more flexibility in the ordinance. So that's what the changes of section 4.2-4, as well as, I'm crossing out no legal special use, because we've gotten rid of that definition of legal special use. We just say no special use shall be changed. So I got rid of that language, but I also wanted to address any type of special use. So if you have an existing special use, whether it was non-conforming and you got a special use to be approved after the fact, or whether you got a special use after 2006, if you change it in any way, that's what this is addressing. You still need, you have to amend your special use by coming through with a new permit. So that was never really specifically outlined in the ordinance before. I think a lot of times it's implied that, hey, you came in, you got approved for, a mining facility with 4 buildings. Well, now you want to build, 20, silos or something that are 40 feet, 50 foot, 100 foot tall. Well, you're going to have to come back through for an additional amendment on your special use. That's not necessarily specifically outlined in the ordinance, so that's what the bottom page is trying to address. The bottom of the first page, as well as the top. So the use may expand to areas or buildings depicted in plans and specifications included in the approved special use applications, including future phases on the same property. That language was added in the highlighted, so if they came through and were approved with like a phase 2 and everything was approved at the meeting, they could go ahead and complete those plans under that special use. So that's kind of just giving them a little more clarification of what's specifically approved during their special use process. And if you look at all the added language or any changes are actually kind of highlighted in gray. The rest of it's existing language. To give some
Question
background.
for you is, so this is the first look at it. The language changes. It's not gone to the zoning board yet.
This has not gone to the zoning board.
Okay. So,
In the past, it's come out of the land use committee.
okay.
Any proposed text amendment language has come out of the land use first to go to be directed to publish and then go be reviewed by the zoning board for recommendation.
This is pulled right out of the zoning ordinance, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and then it will go to the zoning board after we review it.
So this will be, whatever's in here will be published, the changes or the proposed sections that'll be changed will be published, and then this will be on file with the clerks down in our office. And then there'll be a hearing.
So will the zoning board have a chance to weigh in on this, or not?
At the zoning board. Are you saying prior to us publishing and everything?
Yes.
I think in the past, it's come out and been directly from this committee to the zoning board, is that correct?
Yeah, essentially we're the petitioner asking for a text amendment.
Yeah.
And then it comes back to us for final approval,
No, I think then it gets referred on to the full board then.
then it goes directly to the full
It'll
board.
go to the zoning board. for public.
Unless like
Okay,
they want to refer something back, I mean, the zoning board can always refer it back to here for further clarification or, if they run into a brick.
Right after the public hearing.
okay.
So I mean,
If you concur with the changes that from the public hearing, it would be forwarded right on to the full board.
Okay,
If you need to make changes to it, then it would come back here to be forwarded on to the full board.
I mean, I think we've discussed in this committee in the past, now with the different committee, different composition of the committee, maybe that would change, but previously, when we had some text amendments come through, I think it was the thought of this committee that they're the first ones to see the revisions, and then it goes to the zoning board, then it goes to the county board. Some places, it starts with working through with the zoning board, then it'll go through that process. But,
Kent, or Doug knows the procedure for Kendra and Elmer. Anyone can propose a text amendment. It can come from the general public. It can come from this committee. It can come from the zoning board. Those changes would then be brought here to be discussed. If it doesn't originate from the zoning board, it would go back to the zoning board to conduct a public hearing, where it's published, they set the time and date, any public that have any comments on it will come forward, sworn in, testify before the ZBA, and then they would make their referral, and those are the forms that you see come through every month with their opinion and recommendations.
So is this the first time this committee has looked at it?
They've been talked about in the past, but this is the first formal presentation.
if we want to kind of go through this, I mean, we could kick it to next month since we have, new committee members. I mean, I'm not.
Give them time to review it.
Yeah, so maybe that's the best thing, is to maybe just have the new committee members be able to review it. And then, I don't know if Doug's probably not seen any of the changes yet, so.
Mr. Trigger, are you still online?
Yes.
Do you think that would be an appropriate action to take at this time?
To have the committee members look at it?
To table it until the next meeting to give yourself and Ms. Owens an opportunity to get the proposed changes?
Well, is there a motion?
Not yet.
Then you don't have to table anything.
No, we've got 14, 15 pages to go through rather than.
I mean, we could go through part of it and then go through a little more next time.
No, what I'm saying is you can just carry it over to the next meeting, but you don't have to go through the motion of tabling it.
No, I mean, just we continue to the next meeting.
Yeah, you can just continue it to the next meeting.
Give you the opportunity to read the final draft.
Yeah.
And then I maybe could hand it out to the zoning board too at the next meeting, and any input or changes, and we could, go ahead and get their, I don't think I had a chance to get that out to the zoning board, so.
Mr. Chairman, in respect to Mr. Gift, we, some months ago, received a proposed text amendment. It was just on one sheet of paper as to concerns that came through the office, so that's why Brian mentioned to us there's some actual text amendments, and he's diligently worked on providing an explanation and an interpretation as the text amendment to the better good. But unfortunately, we as a committee have not been able to review this, or the zoning board of appeals. So we've got to be very careful as to how we can sit down and go word by word, but unfortunately where we're at, I feel I'm adult enough, if I have a concern, I can come back at the next meeting. I have a concern over the verbiage in this particular text amendment. And then from there, we can do it as to spending all of this extra time in going word by word. I don't know, it's just a personal opinion. I don't mind doing my own homework, looking at the document, and I do trust Mr. Gift in the way he presented the actual interpretation of the change. And then we have both on this sheet of paper, the existing amendment, the text, and then the new amendment. And I'm more than happy to be able to sit down and do that work, and then come back if I have any specific question, if I don't understand it.
And also, I believe that,
It'll take us 3 months to go through this if we're gonna go by page to page.
and I also believe this is the first opportunity the state's attorney has to look at it.
Sure.
So if there's no objection from the committee, we'll keep this on the agenda and read over it at home, make any notations of changes that you want, and rather than go page by page, we'll just address issues that are of concern.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
has Mr. Anderson reviewed it?
He is not.
Well, I would think he needs to review it too. And I think Mr. Stockley's comments, I think the zoning board should review it too.
Well, Brian had already indicated that he will distribute it to the zoning board members.
Okay.
Oh, you did?
And there will be a copy in your mailbox and Ms. Owen's mailbox.
Yeah, I'll email the new committee members copies. So I mean, basically it addresses everything that were concerns of the committee before we went line by line, and this is reflected in the text changes here, so.
That's good. Good.
What's that?
Good job.
Yeah, I think what this will do is give a little bit of more flexibility to the ordinance, so, there's a lot of cases where, there's just no avenue for anybody to even ask for a process, and in some cases, there should be an avenue, and they're just stuck with a bad zoning classification on a property that, we have some non-conforming uses. The only way they could expand their use is if they rezone to industrial, which we don't want them to rezone to industrial, because once they do that, that opens up every single use to that property. So it's gonna be hard. This gives a little more flexibility to the ordinance. I think it'll be good overall to the county and its residents.
And to be fair to the 4 new people, that would give them an opportunity to read through it, to look through the existing zoning ordinance, and if there's any questions, they can bring that forward. As Brian said, all the previous committee members had this email to them last month.
And I guess while we're on this and why we postponed this, I guess, the next month. Now, something that was previously discussed in, that list of line items where, I had brought to your attention potential text amendments. I think we had discussed something about accessory dwelling units. And I think that, that comes up from time to time here. We have a lot of people looking to do one. It's hard to track these trailers that pop up as in-law places, and, they have to install a trailer for somebody to live on the property, and for either them to care for an elderly relative or for the relative to care for them. Is it time to look at the possibility of just having a special use for a regular accessory dwelling unit, or above the garage living unit, or but limit it in square foot and make it a special use? I mean, I think a lot of communities and counties are at least giving that as an option for people to do. So, I don't know if there's any thoughts on that? Either way.
Too many for me to go into now. Thank you, Brian, for asking the question.
I mean, we actually have a case that's come up to it's going to the ZBA this month.
Yeah.
I guess a no comment is not to add that, I guess. Yeah. Or to look into it further.
Is there any way to govern the purpose?
What's that?
Is there any way to govern the purpose of it? Just to have my son live on my property or to have a caregiver live on my property?
Well, I think to have, I mean, we allow, you know, like servants' quarters or something like that. That's allowed as a special use in the A1 district. But
Be
yet-
careful with that term.
That was Dave.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think when you approve the special use, or you could have it, you know, be the special use only for specific things, so, you know, a relative to live in there, but, I mean, the issue is enforcing that later on, how are you gonna keep them from running it out later on? But yet, you know, we allow Airbnb as a special use in some areas, well,
It's gonna tie to it.
what's the difference of, you know, going through an Airbnb special use and then adding, you know, to rent out the garage, right? So, I mean, I almost feel like it should possibly be an option, but limit the square footage of the structure.
To the acre.
Because I mean, we have problems with, I mean, some of them have removed them, but to try to get these folks to remove a, you know, 1,000 square foot trailer that they put a pad out and everything to, you know, put an in-law to live in the trailer for 5-10 years and then having them remove it later on, that becomes an enforcement issue. So. And really, a trailer is probably not a good place to have somebody that's handicapped, because you gotta put a ramp in, you know, as opposed to something more on level, level surface.
You have specific language?
I don't, because I think it, you know, it was talked about, but then that was something we didn't wanna move forward with. But that's one I think we should consider. I know we discussed it, and I don't know if anybody really wanted to, you know, there wasn't a lot in the committee that, I thought maybe I should try at least talking about it again. New committee man. So.
I'd say if you have specific language that you'd like us to consider, by all means. But I'd like to look at the language first before I comment on it. So I don't want you to go to all the work of having it fine-tuned, but.
Yeah. Well, maybe something to think about, and it doesn't have to be in this round of text amendments either, so. It just was brought up again recently, because we had we have a zoning case that we had to kind of, I don't want to get into a discussion of the zoning case, but it's come up recently of you know, one of these accessory dwellings has come up for request.
And for Kendra and elders, knowledge that one of the reasons Brian doesn't discuss any zoning hearings before they go to the zoning board, just to the fact this is a public meeting and none of the details can be brought out until after the testimony is presented to the CBA. So that's one of the reasons he just references in general is case going to the zoning board, not specifics about the case.
So maybe we'll save that discussion for the next round, next year, or the next time we have something. But this might be enough to bite off at once here. So,
It's all right. I caution for the fact is the person that creates the document takes ownership of the document. And you could put yourself into jeopardy, no matter who it is, board member, director, or anyone else that would be looking at this. So a general interpretation and then go through the process, as Mr. Stockley mentioned, that we would have a public meeting, as Mr. Eberderis mentioned. And then we can air it all out, because I believe that's the way the whole process, according to the history that I have, to set the documents to provide for zoning in the county started. It took quite a while. It wasn't anything, okay, this is the verbiage, approve it. It took quite a while to actually come to a consensus and a consideration of the document that we're now working out of.
And it is a living document
Right.
that is amended
Constantly.
as the case by case comes up.
Yeah.
so that one, I might come up with a basic concept of what it is and what it's limited to, and then what we're gonna redact out of the text, but maybe not write up all the text changes, so for the next round, for the next round. So, all right, well, thank you.
As underwhelming as it may be, any questions from Elmer or Kendra about anything that is currently going on?
No. What is currently going on?
With what?
Well, not,
Well, anything that was discussed today,
I guess, what's coming up with zoning?
Oh, what are the cases? So we have a,
Yes.
variance case in, South Ottawa Township. We have, I think in Deer Park Township, there's basically what I discussed previously, there's somebody that, I don't want to get too much detail into the case, but basically it's a house and an accessory structure that had been converted to an apartment at some point. And they would like to go through and get permission to legally have those be two separate residences on one property. So they're coming through as a rezoning to a rural residential district and a special use for a PUD, planned unit development. So that's kind of the only, I said, well, this, it doesn't really fit in the ordinance, but this is kind of the route you have to go. So, let's see. And then the final one was, special use. Oh, a special use for a ag property under 35 acres. So that was just a landowner that wanted to split off a couple acres for his family member that works on the farm. So basically coming through that.
So prior to your ZBA meeting, do we get any information on what's pending?
I don't think I mean,
Come and find out?
well,
What?
well, the agenda's posted,
Where?
so it's posted on the website,
Okay.
so
ZBA.
you can call the office if you have any questions,
Okay,
all
right.
about it.
I'll look on the website.
I mean, we don't have, the packets go to the ZBA,
Right,
it's all
right.
approved.
Nothing with, wind?
There's a company looking to do a Met Tower down in the Panhandle area, a new company. They're close to their application. I believe Avangrid's very close to their application, but they are, I believe, probably waiting out to see, about how they're gonna hold the public meeting. So I think it's probably gonna be February or March.
Okay.
Have you heard any more from Mike Massey at all?
Not lately,
No.
not lately.
No, so I mean, there was kind of a push to get it, something done during the pandemic here, or during the winter months, but it seems like, the things have slowed down a little bit. So we don't have an application in for it yet. But it seems like the solar companies, that have been given the awarded the state, lottery, for the power purchase agreements and whatnot, they're starting to move forward with, applying for their permits and getting all that in place.
Good.
If there's no other questions or comments, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. By Ms. Pottinger, second by Mr. Stockley, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 11:55.
What's that?
I ain't heard yet, Mark, you get the stick?
I've been in my office for 3 weeks before you. You can't find me, you can't find me.
Yeah.
Nothing official?
I've had conversations with them, I'm not sure exactly what duties, responsibilities, there's still some things in play, but
Make my cookies.